on the other side. So, because I had to talk Sharon into letting us share memories up here. So this is very informal, but I couldn't not send him away without some words about him. And so we are going to open it up for time sharing. There is some room under the canopy. If you want to squish in, you can. And if you can't hear, you may want to squish in as well. We are videotaping it for his daughters in Pennsylvania, so we're going to ask that you stand from here over to there, somewhere in this vicinity, so that you can be on camera. And also, if you will introduce yourself, if you share memories, so that we can know who you are. Do you want to start?
Well, I first wanted to thank everybody for coming. Looking around, I can't see a single soul that didn't mean something to my dad. He loved each and every one of you guys. And I'm thinking of memories that I wanted to share, and I've got so many memories, but one that comes to mind is was on a Harley ride. We were going up to Yellowstone with some friends, just to kind of show how much he cared for me. On the ride home, we were having issues with my motorcycle, and wasn't quite sure what was going on. The front wheel was kind of locking up, and he told me to trade in motorcycles, and he had a Sportster, just a little Sportster, and I traded him, got on that Sportster, and he got on that fat boy mine with them 8 fingers, and I can just remember looking over there, that small guy grabbed a hold of them 8 fingers, just all he could do to keep control of that thing. And we ended up getting to a gas station somewhere in Idaho, and came home and got the vehicle and the trailer to go back up, and we got up there, and he said, "I'm so glad to see you." He said, "I've been offered everything from marijuana to who knows what." But he really did care. He didn't want to see anything happen to his son. Another memory that I'll always cherish is the opportunity I had to go back to Pennsylvania and see where he was born and raised, and meet family that lived back there. And I think that really meant a lot to him, that he could take, if not everybody, but at least his son could go with him and share, memories. And now I know what the heck he was talking about when he'd share stories of Pennsylvania, landmarks and that. And we had the opportunity to take Laurie and Addison back with us for his 50-year high school reunion. I like to think that meant a lot to him as well, to go back and see his friends and to be able to share that with Laurie. Dad, I'll remember you every time I tromp these hills or fish a lake or put a $100 bill in a slot machine, tell my wife it was a 20. I'll miss those trips, but like I said, I've got lots to share, but I think that'll do it for now. So I miss you, Dad. Love you.
Be careful. If I get too close, I might slip and beat him to it. I'm Sharon's brother, and this kind of stuff is hard for me. I did a lot of hunting and fishing with Richard. And we had a lot of good times, and I had a lot of irritations fishing with Richard, because I guess the story I would like to tell is he just absolutely got obsessed with wanting to catch a lake trout up to Flaming Gorge. So he would go out and buy everything it took that he'd heard would take to catch big fish, and he'd go up there and try it out. Not catch anything, come back, and the next week he'd try it again. And it was one of those kind of deals where we'd leave here at 2 o'clock in the morning, drive all the way up there so we could be fishing at 6 in the morning, and we'd be home at noon. 4-hour drive, so we'd fish for 2 or 3 hours, and we caught nothing. He said, "That's it, I'm done." And we'd come back home after a couple hours, and it was an 8-hour round trip. But I did a lot of deer hunting with him. I guess another story I remember, we were driving down the road, and we could hear lots of shooting off the side of the road, so we stopped. And we could see the deer coming down the hill, and pretty quickly they come up the hill right in front of us, and we were standing there with our guns, and this little spike buck crawled up on the road and stood right there in the middle of the road 50 yards in front of us. And we looked at the deer, and the deer looked at us, and pretty quick the deer ran off. And I said, well, how come you didn't shoot it? He said, that son of a bitch has had a tough day already. Richard was a lot of fun. Helped him haul a lot of deer out. And those are the things I remember about Richard, that and his generosity. He'd go out and buy something for $200, decided he didn't like it, and he'd sell it to me for $50. So I was always glad. But I'll miss Richard as well.
You just hold it. Just hold that over here.
Hi, I'm Riley. I'm Richard's youngest daughter. I had to write my memory down because I figured I'd start crying and I forget what I was going to say. My dad loved to share his hobbies and interests with his kids, and that didn't exclude his little girl. I begged my dad to take me on his motorcycle. Up to 7-Eleven every chance I got. I was convinced that one day I would have my own motorcycle, and it had to be a Harley because my dad taught me that nothing beats a Harley. I even remember one time I was late to church and I threw on some basketball shorts and my dad drove me to church on his Harley. My interest grew even more like my dad when I decided I needed a snowmobile license so I could drive my own snowmobile on family outings, and he was with me every step of the way. Then I decided I wanted a hunting license. I don't remember my dad hesitating 1 second when I asked him, and he was again right by my side to get it. Some other interests I shared with my dad are fishing, sleeping, and his temper. He taught me so much. Even if I didn't realize it at the time, he stood by my side through all my trials and errors in my life, and I'm so happy I got to call him my dad, and I'll miss him more than he would ever know.
I'm Troy Abraham. I'm the middle child. Like Ryan, I got a lot of memories, a lot of different stories, but I just wanted to get up here and say how thankful I was for everything that he taught me, from fishing to taking me on my first deer hunting trip, all the times I got to spend working on the different cars and machines he had around the yard, and learning how to fix everything the wrong way. Anyways, he's just a really great guy, and happy I got to spend time with him. We bought a boat together and took a lot of fishing trips before he got too old and tired to get out and do much more, but I'm just thankful for everything that he taught me. I think there's a lot of him and me and the hobbies that I have and things I like to do, and he was my biggest supporter as far as schoolwork and getting good grades and everything. He always wanted to know how things were going. He was the first one there to ask me how I did on a test, how I did on a fishing trip. I'm just thankful for having him as a father.
I'm that's Corey, the second oldest. I had to write mine down, I forget. I really don't have a specific moment or story about my dad, but we did so many things it's hard to narrow it down. We were always outside camping, fishing, hunting, or snowmobiling. He taught me a lot. We bonded over working on things together, even through the last few years. No matter what I was working on, he'd always be out there, trying to help me. I never had to ask, but when it came to him needing something, my help, he'd get impatient and he tried to do it himself, and I'd have to come up and try to figure out how it went back together. But that was all right. It taught me a lot how to be a father and how to have fun adventures no matter where we go. I will miss him so much. I love you, Dad. See you again.
I'm Bruce Leonard. I work for Brigham City Corporation. When Richard worked for the city, I was a city administrator, and he worked at the waste treatment plant in maintenance. But that's not how I really became acquainted with Richard. Even though Richard was an excellent employee, he was meticulous about the work he performed, and he was always wanting to do something. He was always busy. But we became acquainted because we both stopped at the South Main 7-Eleven to get our drinks. And he knew who I was, I knew who he was, and it started out by saying, greetings, hello, how are you, and all that. And then he'd start riding his motorcycle, his Harley up there, and I'd park it. And I'd go over and admire his motorcycle. And I never owned a motorcycle, probably couldn't ride one, but I loved the sound of those Harleys. And he had started up for me and tell me all about it. And then he started telling me about his trips and the rides he went on. And then he started telling me about his family and his friends and his experiences everywhere he'd been in life. And I would listen. And sometimes we'd spend an hour or two just talking. And I felt like I had a very sheltered life. He was always talking about going to Sturgis, South Dakota. I don't know whether he ever made it or not, but last summer my wife and I drove to Mount Rushmore, and we made it a point to drive into Sturgis and walk down the sidewalks, and it was after the Harley rally, and it was quiet. There was no one there hardly, but I thought about Richard, and I wondered if he'd ever had the opportunity to make it to Sturgis. But I know this: he loved his family, he loved his wife, his kids, his grandkids, and his close friends, and he had a lot of good experiences in life, and he will be missed.
I just want to take just a second. My name's Jay Anderson. I actually live next door to the Abrahams, and actually was born and raised across the street from Sharon. I was the pesky little kid that she wanted to get rid of all the time. We were able to purchase the lot just south, and which we came in. Wasn't very handy. Okay, if it was a ball or something, I felt like I knew what to do with it. But if it was a hammer, a chainsaw, I was in the dark. And Richard just seemed to always know when I was in trouble or when I needed something. Richard was just the kind of guy that always would take a minute, always concerned about the family, concerned about everything that was going on, and he was always out and about. He used to love to see him out walking and doing stuff, and the opportunity to visit with him, and just his friendship. He'd give it the shirt off his back if he could. And we just love Richard and wish him the best.
Who's going to get here first?
I'm gonna stay wet and shade.
Hi, I'm Raymond Polson. I was the manager over the waste treatment plant. Richard worked under me. Have to ditto Bruce a little bit. What a great guy and what a great worker. If he didn't have anything to do, which wasn't very often, he'd find something to do or ask. Very good worker, very good friend over the years. Known Richard for a long time. Become real good friends with Ryan. Some of the memories, he always wanted me to help him exercise his bikes. So I got to ride them Harleys a couple of times. So that was fun. But I always remember him, very good worker. He would help somebody after work if they needed it. What a guy. We'll miss him big time.
For those of you that wondering who I am, I'm Sharon's oldest brother. I'm Don, and we reside in Texas. I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. I'm gonna tell you a few things that Sharon was a little lax on, or maybe she don't want anybody to know about. We lived in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, my family, for a while. And while we were there, we befriended Richard. And while we were up there, Richard's name was Itch. Everybody called him Itchy or Itch. And when he got down here, that kind of faded away. But my side of the family always remembers Richard as Itch. And while we were up there in Wyoming, I could just ditto everything that everybody said. But my son-in-law that lives in Texas married my oldest daughter. Her husband worked with Richard in Jackson Hole, Wyoming on the garbage truck before Sharon ever met him. That's a small world. I was quite surprised when I heard that. Richard and I and a couple other guys, just one quick incident. We spent a whole winter up on Togri Pass above Jackson Hole cutting firewood, supplying Teton Village with firewood. And Richard helped me out just like nobody's business. If I had to do something, couldn't do it, he'd do it. We'd work back and forth. One thing I remember is we built a big tent out of blue tarps. And the four of us stayed up there all winter in them tents, and we put a stove in there, and every night it was somebody's night to feed the fire. And it seemed like every fourth night when it rolled around to Richard's time to feed the fire, he'd say, "I did it last night." But he'd end up doing it without much of a hassle, because the other three of us was bigger than he was. We moved down to Brigham City to work for Champion Homes. I bought a truck and was pulling trailers. And Richard come down from Jackson Hole with us and helped us get moved in, and escorted the trailers with me, and if I was ill or couldn't handle a load or something, he'd help me drive. And somehow or other he bumped into Sharon. And I didn't know anything was going on in the world. I didn't even know they knew each other. One evening, Richard caught me out on the front lawn in front of the house. "I got something to ask you, T." "Yeah, go ahead." "Do you mind if I date your sister?" And I stood there with my mouth dropped open for a second. Like I say, I didn't know he even knew Sharon. And I thought for a minute, and then I looked at him and said, "Yeah, you can go ahead and date her, just take care of her. Don't abuse her." "I won't." Okay, well, next thing you know, they're married. I don't know how long their dating has been going on. But I don't know. I could go on all day, but I'm not. I'm just going to say I love Richard just like a brother. I hadn't seen him for a few years, just dropping in once in a while because we lived out of state, a long ways away, and it was hard to catch up when I did come up here for a day or two, and I'd have to spread out and see everybody, and I always end up with Richard out by his garage, him showing me the new toys or showing me this or that, and when I heard that he was going to pass on, he was sick, and he only had a short time to live, I wanted to come up here and visit with him before he got too bad to visit with. And I procrastinated, I guess. I didn't make it up here. And I kicked myself in the butt every time I think about it. And I hope Richard forgives me for it. And I'll always love him, Richard. Take care, buddy. Itch.
This thing's loud. So I'm Jordan Anderson. I was the next door neighbor to Richard. My dad just got up and spoke. I remember Richard throughout my whole life. I don't think there's really a time that I don't remember him being around. One of my favorite things that I would always say about him is he was the neighborhood watchdog because he was always outside. Winter, summer, spring, always outside. And I always joked that my parents never locked the door because they knew Richard was next door, and if anyone tried to break in, he would catch him. And one thing that I've been kind of just pondering on my life and how big of an impact Richard has played in it, and I never really realized how influential he was. He was always there. He always caught me and Troy getting in trouble doing something stupid. And one thing that I'm truly grateful for is he actually gave me my love for hunting. I grew up in a family where we didn't hunt, we didn't fish, we just we played sports. But being friends with Troy and having the opportunity to have Richard next to me, he really helped develop that love for hunting. I absolutely love hunting, and I can't tell you how many times I'd come in and he would sit there and ask me fishing stories and hunting stories, and it'd go on and on. But kind of one of my favorite memories of Richard, and this will be very precious to me, is every time I'd see him, no matter what, he'd always ask me how it was chasing those heifers. He'd always joke that I was chasing them big women, and it was just always funny to me. And as a little kid, I just remember I'd always be like, no, I'm not chasing them. He's like, oh, it's okay, you know. And then as I got older, I started joking back with him, and that's why I bought my truck, was so I could haul those big girls around. Richard was a very wonderful friend and neighbor, and I really consider him my family. I love Richard so very much, and I'll miss him.
My name is Ben Dixon. I grew up down the street from the Abrahams when I was little, and then they moved to the house that Sharon is living in today. And me and Ryan and Corey have been friends since we was just little guys. I've just always known Richard too. You know, I've never had a nickname much of my life anyway, but there was always one person that called me by a nickname his whole life, and that was Richard. He called me Benaroo, and I was the kissing cousin to Captain Kangaroo. Every time he saw me, even till the last time, he always called me that.
Ben the Bakerson.
You know, and thinking about what I could share was, you know, growing up with these guys, they always had, you know, snowmobiles and four-wheelers. Same thing is, Before, I didn't have to do those things with my family, but I wanted to be a part of that. I remember we'd go snowmobiling, and we wanted to have one for me so I didn't have to double up or anything. And so me and Richard got talking, and he went and found me a snowmobile. Sort of. I had a track, and it had a motor, and it had some handlebars, but that was about it. But we bought it for a price that I could afford, and we spent the next couple months out working on that in the yard, and we fixed it up till it was running good, and I rode that thing all over the place with those boys. And some of my best memories are out there working in Richard's garage. It seems like there was anything in the world that you needed, it was in that garage somewhere. In fact, there's only one thing I can think of that wasn't in that garage, and that was room to work on anything. I remember out in the driveway, out in the snow and cold, and we'd all be huddled around the snowmobile fixing this, that, or the other, and freezing to death. But some of those were some of the best memories of my youth. And then later in life, riding motorcycles and going on trips. That's the kind of thing that I'll never forget about Richard, and I'm going to really miss him. And I hope that I'll see him again someday.
My name's JDT. I'm Dave's oldest boy, and as we were sharing stories with Richard, I started realizing I was pretty lucky because I got to work with Uncle Richard and I got to play with Uncle Richard. I did both. And I remember when he was trimming trees with my dad, and he and I were the crew, and my dad was the boss, and I remember before my dad spent the money on his bucket truck, I remember Uncle Richard climbing those trees, and my dad sitting at the bottom. Go higher, Richard, go higher. And he'd get up there, and I know he was thinking, you're crazy, Dave. You're going to kill me. And I remember him climbing clear up in them trees and tying off and cutting the top of that tree off, and that thing just swinging. And he'd go, okay. My dad would be like, okay, Richard, get the next one. He'd say, just a minute. And he'd come down to the bottom just shaking. And he'd say, JD, stick a cigarette on there and send it up for me. So he'd lower the chainsaw down, and I got really good at sticking that cigarette on there without breaking it. He'd pull it back up, and I'm sitting here standing in this pile of tree, and he's up there lighting, and I'm thinking, this is crazy. But he'd be like, okay, and he'd climb right back up, and he didn't quit. He wasn't afraid. And then I remember as a kid going fishing with Uncle Richard. That was the thing. We always went fishing with Uncle Richard, and as I'm looking back on it, we'd go out on his boat, and he'd troll us around for hours out on that boat, and I bet I lost more lures of his than I ever bought of my own. And he never said anything. He'd like, well, let's get you another one, and we'd put another one on there. And that was just Uncle Richard. He loved to share. He loved to share fishing. He loved to spend time with his kids, and he was always willing to make us part of that. And I had a lot of good memories of Uncle Richard out there on that boat, and I'm gonna miss him too.
I'm Alan Dixon. I'm Ben's dad. Earlier this week I was headed for the lake today, and then Ben said that Ryan had called and told us his dad had passed. Figured this is where we needed to be. I'm like David, this is hard for me to do. But long before they moved into the T home, they lived over in the northwest section of town by us. Couple of the boys, and we had a young boy and a girl. And I can't remember when we connected, when we hit it off. But of course, the thing that kind of connected us was the fishing and whatnot. I remember fishing on Lewis Lake, and I remember fishing on Yellowstone Lake, and I remember being on Jackson Lake, and him and Ben in the bow of the boat little, and the wind come terrible, and busting through the waves to get back, and they're hunkered down, think we're gonna die, and you know, just a lot of things we did. And over the years, I know we bought an old wood-burning stove from a big old cast iron thing, heavier than all get out. And to this day, I'm not sure how it got in our basement, but I think it had something to do with Richard when Brenda bought it from him. So, something I'd like to share, a little bit painful. After they had these 2 boys, I had a little girl. She was born with a liver problem and whatnot. I happened to be their home teacher, and we just spent a lot of time trying to help. And they were waiting for transplant, I believe it was. And I remember in the middle of one night, now I'm talking after midnight, I get this phone call. It says we're going. We got word and we're going. And just wanted to make sure that I'd call our bishop and let him know. It was a hard time, tough time. But they pulled through it. We all managed and had more family. And if you haven't figured out, you got to know Richard was a good worker. He's a great friend and neighbor, and he's a family man. I can tell today just how much he invested in his family, and how important that is to him. And it will continue to be, and I want to assure you that's true. And I appreciate it when Corey says, I'll see him again. I want to tell you that that's true. And we'll have more tales to swap. Till then, Richard.
I'm Jesse T, Dave T's boy. My Uncle Richard was a great man. I remember fishing, Uncle Richard and fishing. I remember I wasn't any older than my boy. Going out on that green boat, you know, my family and Abraham's in their brown van, and we had our blue van and brown van with the green boat. Prettiest thing you'd ever see, man. So I told Uncle Richard, I says, Uncle Richard, I've never caught a fish. I want to catch a fish. He says, well, we'll go out on the boat and we'll see what we can do. He says, I haven't had much luck. So we get out there and he gets his lure put up on there for me and throws it out. He says, okay, just hold on. If you feel something, you yank it and just hold on. So we're sitting there and we're trawling and trawling. Next thing I know, I got a bite and about pulled me in the water. Old Uncle Richard starts laughing. Hold on to it, hold on to it. I'm over there. Uncle Richard, I can't. He says, hold on to it and reel it in. He's like, Uncle Richard, I'm trying. It's just too big. He's like, here, I'll show you how you do it. He grabs out. He's like, holy cow. I'm sitting there trying to reel it in. It took everything he had for Uncle Richard to pull that thing in. He got that thing in there and he was so jealous. He says, man, I think that's bigger than anything I've caught. Uncle Richard, I just want you to know you gave me a lot of memories in life. Camping, going with the cousins, a lot of good memories for me. I just want you to know that I'm passing them memories on with my family, with my kids, with my niece and nephew. I love you, Uncle Richard.
My memory of my grandpa is whenever I went downstairs to see him once, the first thing I'd hear would be, hi little girl, and I never refused to give him the best hug, and he'd always take us to get Slurpees, and my memories were always so hard of him, and I miss him a lot.
Did you want to see?
My name is Brenda Dixon, and Ben's mom, and yeah, we spent a lot of time with Richard and Sharon and the boys, and we had a lot of good memories. And it's true, he's a hard worker, and he would do anything for you. The one time I remember, well, he and Sharon had gone to the hospital to have Troy, and we were babysitting the other kids, and he came in, I don't remember, the next day or something, and I was preparing a birthday cake for my daughter. It was June 8th, it was her birthday. He came in and he says, "You have a daughter with a birthday today?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And he says, "Well, I have a son with a birthday today." And I went, "You do?" Pass me for a minute. But, so, anyway, I babysat Troy from the time he was a little baby. And Richard had come and pick up the kids, and we talked about a lot of things. And one day I was standing outside. We had just got into this new house, and there was a landscape rock that I wanted to have moved over by the tree, and I wasn't quite sure. I was out there kind of staring at it, trying to decide where I wanted it, and he came to come pick up the kids, and he said, "Well, you're not going to move it by staring at it." And I says, "Well, you never know, you know." And so we stood there and talked for a long time, and before I knew it, he got down there and he picked up that rock and he moved it over, and he says, "Is that where you want it?" And I said, "Yeah, that looks good." And I said, "See, it worked." But since we're recording this for his daughters in Pennsylvania, I just wanted to say that he told us a lot of stories about his time in Pennsylvania, and told me about his daughters and showed me pictures, and said how much he wished he could be a part of their life. He was truly a family man. He loved his family, loved his kids, and we're going to miss him.
Did you want to sing? Okay.
And Sharon, you were worried that no one would talk. I told you so. My daughter has asked, since this happened, if she could sing a song. And she's invited her cousin. Do you want McHenry to come up too? Sure. McHenry, where are you?
In the shade somewhere.
McHenry? Come.
Come stand right here. And so Addie really wanted to sing the song for her grandpa. So we're going to let her. She invited a few of her cousins. These are cousins on my side of the family, but they're going to sing with her.
True statement.
Yeah.
Jesus climbed the hill to the garden still. His steps were heavy and slow. Love in a prayer took him there to the place
grateful for those that shared memories so I could be right. I'm also the bossy one in the family, and they've learned to put up with me. But it's been a great honor for me to take care of my sweet father-in-law as the funeral director and to be able to care for him, and I'm thankful for these guys for allowing me to do that for him, because I loved him dearly and I love you guys dearly. And I want the pallbearers to know who helped today that you were specifically requested by Richard to be a part of being a pallbearer. You each meant a lot to him. And like I said, he sat me down and told me what my wishes are to go to the cemetery and just put me in the ground. And I said, I don't listen very well either. And then he told me, I want these pallbearers, and so thank you guys for your service today. I think where's David? David is going to dedicate the grave for us. After the dedicatory prayer, we do have a meal prepared over at Sharon's ward, the 10th ward, that you're all invited to attend and come over to. But we'll go ahead and turn the time over to David. And then after the prayer, if the pallbearers would come up and place their boutonnieres on the casket.
Our Father in heaven, by the power of the Melchizedek priesthood, we consecrate and dedicate this piece of ground for the final resting place of the mortal remains of Richard Abraham. Father, we pray that thou might bless this spot of ground, that it will be protected from the elements, from vandals. We pray that it might be a solitary place where people can come and remember Richard and the things of him that are fun and that might bring joy and gratification in their lives. Father, we're grateful for the life of Richard, and we pray for these things and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
And you'll notice his Harley jacket. I said, Sharon, he'd hound us if we got flowers, so we figured that was a little bit more appropriate on here for him. But if you gentlemen would like to come forward and place your boutonnieres on the casket. And this concludes our services. We love you, Richard. There is a book here and some programs if you haven't had a chance to sign or get a program as well.
The whole song is great.
Come back.
She loved it. Yeah, it was a wonderful service. It was a great thing. I think he would have liked that.
Thanks, you guys.
I don't know.
Have our reservation.